Hi. So you want to shoot double exposures on your film camera, but you don't have a rewind button like I do on this Pentax K1000. Well, today I'm going to show you how to shoot a whole roll of film twice and offer some tips. A while back I made a tutorial on how to shoot double exposures on this Pentax K1000. Now, some models of camera have this rewind button, and if you do have it, then you can take a photo like normal, use the rewind button when you roll on the film again, which keeps the film in place, and then take a second exposure on exactly that same piece of film. So everything is lined up perfectly. But a few people have reached out to me to say that they don't have that button. So how can they shoot double exposures? Well, there is a way, and it's quite fun, but a little bit experimental. You load your whole roll of film and shoot the whole way through it to get your first set of exposures. Then you wind it back, reload it, and go all over again to get your second double exposure on each image. Which means, unless you write a long list down, you'll have no idea which image is landing on top of which. You're shooting blind. And that's either going to be magical or going to create a bit of a mess at the end. And that's the fun of shooting double exposures like this. The first step is pretty simple. We load our roll of film into the camera as normal, make sure everything is set to go, and then before closing the door, I'm going to use a permanent marker to mark the roll of film so we can exactly line up our film to this spot later on. The trick to this method is making sure that your second round of images land exactly on top of the first and aren't all offset in some way. Otherwise, you'll end up with something like this, which is not that great. I'm going to head out and shoot my first set of images, so some tips on what you might want to capture. I personally love a silhouette, so when we take our second image, we'll be filling that black area of the image. I'm going to try some neon signs, so the signage should show up on whatever we shoot the second time. But in all of these, I'm going to make sure that there are some dark areas. Why? Because any dark area of an image is going to leave unexposed film for our second exposures. Any white areas of an image are going to be totally exposed, and all the chemicals in the film are going to light up and there'll be nothing left to work with. But the black areas can be exposed again. So for example, this silhouette can then be filled with another photo the second time around. Let's head out and get some images. Okay, so I finished shooting my roll of film. Now for the slightly tricky part. We're going to wind the roll of film back, and then we're going to reload it and try line it up exactly the same so that we can shoot our second exposures on top of our first exposures. Let's give it a go. Right, so on this Pentax K1000, I'm going to use the rewind button, hold it in, and wind my roll of film back. Now, if you listen carefully, you might be able to catch the film before it all ends up in the canister. So basically, the film is rolling from this side back into the canister on this side, and you might be able to hear it move off the edge here with a little sound, and then catch it before it all ends up back in the canister. Okay, so I've ended up with the film all back in the canister. I'm going to show you a little trick to get it back out again. Okay, so you've rolled your whole roll of film back into the canister. Now what? If you have some old film or some negatives like this, and there's usually a little loose end like that, what you're going to want to do is wet the end of the film, and we're going to push it into the canister, and that wet end should stick onto the film inside. So when we pull it back out again, it should bring the film with it. So you're going to want to give it a swift tug. You might need to try this a few times, but it should eventually work. There's the film, and we can pull that back out and see the lines which we drew on earlier. So we'll use those to make sure we load the film exactly the same way that we did the first time. So we're going to load the film back in as normal, and we're going to need those lines to line up as we had them before. Now, when you wind on, you might find that your lines don't exactly match up. So you can see here, I'm one tiny little bracket off. If you do get it skew, don't just leave it, pull it back out again and try again. And eventually, hopefully, we'll get everything lined up again. Just push the film back in, reload it, and there we go. The lines are perfectly lined up, exactly as we had them before, so our second exposure will land exactly on top of the first. Right, so we're all lined up and ready to shoot our second exposures. I'm heading out for the weekend, so I'll shoot my double exposures there, and then I'll be back with the results. Right, so I took the film for developing and processing, and they just emailed me the final files, so I'm gonna open it up. I am kind of nervous because I put a lot of work into making this tutorial, and I'm just really hoping that the pictures actually came out. Yeah, so it was a roll of black and white film, and let's open it up and see if anything came out of it. I see photos. Okay, not bad. So this was a silhouette which I did against a window, and there's me standing inside of it. So it seems like these silhouettes have turned out really well. I took most of these against a window with quite bright light outside, so you've got a really crisp silhouette, and then the fills were all taken on my trip away. This one with the flower is really nice. That is completely coincidental how that lined up. That's brilliant. This one's really great. Okay, so this is a silhouette which I took against a window, and then some grasses which were against the skyline. The combination of the two kind of silhouette images. Some work better than others. This is an excellent one. Again, silhouette against the window and a nice bit of texture from these grasses. And that's pretty cool. It's taken me a minute to actually see what's going on there. Okay, so that's a close-up of a face, and then this landscape. You win some, you lose some, not everything lines up, but that's the magic of this. The free bird sign, I remember taking that. That was a neon sign which I took at night in the streets down the road, and then it's against this great shot which we took in the mountains. And the sunset sign, that's also pretty cool. These ones are really great. Wow. Okay, I gotta give a shout out to my partner for standing for all of these photos and for taking the ones of me. Those are brilliant. Great, so there's some really magical images here. I'm really chuffed actually. I think the silhouettes which I took in the first round worked really well, so making sure that there's a really nice dark spot. Otherwise the neon signs also seem to work quite well. You just want to make sure that you've got something to work with on that first exposure. You've got a dark spot which you're going to fill with your second exposures the second time around, and then just making sure that it lines up really nicely. So making sure you put your lines on when you load your film and that you can line it up. I'm really glad that we managed to get that right. I hope you found this tutorial useful, and if you do go out and try this method and try some double exposures, then please tag me, find me on Instagram, Matt C. Griffiths. I'm really keen to see what you come up with. I hope it helped you.